Right. If you've got iMovie, this is probably what you'll see when you open it up. Um, and the first thing it asks you to do is import media. Uh, so when I started working on this video, in the same way that I would do in a studio, if I were recording like a drum track first and then tracking in other people, I decided to have a bass track that everyone would listen to when they recorded their part. So you guys are probably familiar with the idea. I made it a video that they could watch while recording because I thought that would be helpful. They're a pretty amateur band, and I figured that like watching Sarah's cues as she sang could be helpful. There were one or two issues with like one person's recording seemed like it must have slowed down at a spot or something because I had to do some things to get it to synchronize that were annoying and complicated. I don't know if that had anything to do with the fact that he was watching a video. So if it's an option, I would probably send people just an audio track. Oh, hold on. Right, Gene, you're on two things at once, so you're echoing. I'm gonna mute one of them, if that's okay. All right, hold on. Gene?
Yeah, I'm getting rid of one of them. Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. All right. Okay, so so to build that bass track, I did that in Photo Booth. And so on my Mac, this is another thing that came with the Mac. You open up the app Photo Booth, you switch over to this over here, which is the movie recording, and then you can just click it and record a movie. And I recorded along with a metronome. You can do it with a regular metronome, or you can do it with GarageBand. You could also record in GarageBand if you don't want to make a movie to go with it. The advantage of making a movie with your bass track is that you can actually use it as one of the, frames in your movie. So I think probably what would be optimal would be making the movie and then maybe just sending them the audio from that movie. Or making the movie and sending them the whole thing. I don't know that that was a problem. It's possible that that wasn't the cause of any of the issues. But in any case, so what I did is I recorded myself playing along with a metronome. And then so you actually, once you've got a thing in Photo Booth, you can take the video, which pops up down here at the bottom, and you can drag it into a Finder window, and then it'll save it as a movie, as a file. And so then you can take that file and do whatever you want with it, including, let me see, I made a folder called Rovers, which is the name of or Irish Rover, and put my movie in there. And so here was me playing the tune in G, and I could take that and drag it into iMovie, where it says import media. So now that it's there, that means I get to use it for something. And where I'm building my movie is down here in this area. Drag and drop video clips from the browser about to start creating your movie. So if I just wanted to create a movie for people to watch, I could just click and drag it down here. I can crop it by clicking the edges and dragging in, and at any point I can choose a spot and play from there. Right, and so that's an easy way to just crop the video, and then to create a file to send to people, you go to File, Share, and I think I ended up posting it to YouTube to share the link with them. And you'd have to get that set up with your YouTube account, but you can also just export it to a file and do whatever you want with it. If you wanted to separate it from the audio and just send them an audio track, you control click on this video thing and you click split clip. Wait, no, not split clip, sorry, the other one. It's detach audio, that's the one. Detach audio, and so now as you scroll down, you can see that we've got the video clip up here, the audio clip down here. That was an essential tool for the whole rest of this process. So that's really useful. And then you can actually just click the clip and delete it. Wait, hold on. No, you can, sorry, you can, I think you can hide it. I think that's the way to do it. Oh, no, sorry. Wait, better idea. You go to share, you go to file, and then you can say, you should be able to say just audio, format audio only. There we go. That's the way to export just an audio file from this.
So you didn't really have to show it?
I didn't really have to show it. I could just send them the audio file by exporting it to an audio file like that.
Yeah.
And I did, in fact, I don't think I even had to split it there. I'm gonna have to split it later, but that's a useful tool. But in any case, I think this is just useful to know that like your working space is down here. You can drop things into it. You can split off the audio if you want. At this point, I could move the audio separately from the video. So this is a tool that I now have at my disposal. And as that first step of just creating the bass track, there's lots of different ways you can do that. I mean, creating a bass track is basically just creating a video that they can play along with. So nothing too complicated there, or an audio that they can play along with.
John, if you split it off, you can easily sync it back together, obviously.
Yes, although, let me see. I mean, so at this point, as long as they both start in the same place, I can just drag it to the beginning. And
yeah, it locks in, yeah.
Right, exactly. If there's no lock-in point, then I think it would be harder. But another thing you can do is what I accidentally did before was split clip. At this point, now that they're separate from each other, I need to use Shift to select them both if I want to split them. And I do that Control click and I can split clip. And now I've got another landmark.
Yeah.
And as I'm playing it, it'll still go right over the boundary without any problem. But I can now treat them as two separate.
Yeah.
And I've got a locking point. Okay, so there's another tool that was really useful in this process. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this for a sec. Okay, so then people play along. My instructions for them were to watch this YouTube video and record a photo booth movie of yourself playing along or singing along with it, and then get that to me. And people got it to me various different ways. Google Drive, or I think somebody Dropboxed it or something. Yeah, so anyway you can.
Does it have to be photo booth?
No, any kind of movie file is fine.
MP4?
Yes, an MP4 is fine. You can see here, I think I ended up exporting to an MP4. Most people sent me, what did they send me? I think .mov, right? But any kind of video file should be fine.
What is it when they just use their phone? Because that's what I did with a guy.
That should be fine. It's either an MP4 or an MOV. I think it's an MP4. So then once people started sending me the files, I started dragging them into this project space. And this is just like a big dump location for all of the things I'm going to use. And so I find them in the Finder somewhere. I click and drag them into this space. So there's Jeff and where's Elisa's recording here. Great. Okay, so this should be enough for me to start going through the process. Actually, let me grab Sarah's fiddle part. Okay, so what I discovered watching video tutorials online was that if you want a really neatly laid out video grid, you kind of want to make the grid first, just in a picture, and you want it to be the right dimensions. iMovie is extremely limited in that it can only export videos with a particular size. What I did is I used my graphics editing program, Graphic, and let me see, Rovers. But any drawing file could work. You also don't have to do this if you don't mind sort of freehanding it. But I drew this grid with the right export dimensions. I think those were, hold on, inches, centimeters, millimeters. Yeah, I think it was 847 by 1507. I should double check. iMovie video export dimensions. Let's see. Well, size video. Okay, we can worry about that later. I think that you can do this. Maybe we'll double back and just talk about exactly how to create this grid. But you just need some kind of image that you're then going to make your whole grid on top of. You can make it in a paint program. You can make it on some kind of online draw tool. Doesn't really matter. And then you can take that file, which I think I called Rover's background.png. I made a PNG file and drag it into the video space. And now what I have is 4 seconds of this background grid. And okay, so
it was a graphic, but it makes it a movie automatically.
It makes it a movie, and it did a weird panning thing, which I needed not to do. So I'm gonna click on it. I'm gonna go up to this area, and this is another tool that's really important for this process: cropping. I'm gonna click on cropping, which is these little boxes. And right now it has decided it wants to Ken Burns it, which means it zooms in over the course of that video.
Thanks.
I'm just going to say crop to fit. And it crops it to fit because I gave it exactly the right dimensions to start out with. If you had a different image, you could do that. So that's fine. And so now when I play it, it should not zoom around. It'll stay put. Great. Okay, and I can click and drag to make it longer and longer and longer and longer. And then the tool that I want to use to put myself into this video is iMovie will let you put one single video frame within the frame of another video in parallel.
Oh, one.
Only one. However, what you can do, and this is the overarching structure of this process, is you put one video frame in where you want it, you export it to a video, and then you use that as the base for your next video.
Yeah.
So you bring everything in one by one.
Wow. Wow.
It's an annoyance because then you kind of need to be constructing this in a specific order, and you can't really go back very easily and mess with the things you've already put in.
Yep.
That's what makes iMovie a pain to do this, but it's quite doable.
Sergeant Pepper in four tracks.
Exactly. So okay. The next thing I need to do is take the video that I want to bring in first, click on it, and this is another thing about iMovie. This isn't too annoying, it's just weird. You need to crop it first before doing anything else. Otherwise, you get stuck with exactly the same size. You can't crop it after bringing it in. And so I'm going to crop it down to approximately the size that I want, like this. And it would be nice if there were a more precise way to do this. But what I ended up doing was, it's okay if it overflows a little bit because you're going to cover it up with other videos as you go from if you start on the upper left and work your way down, then the precise cropping doesn't matter very much. So I'm going to crop it, and I'm going to say, click the checkbox for OK. And now I've got this nice crop video, and I'm going to put this in and anchor it to the very beginning. And so now that I've dragged it in and put it in this little above the picture thing, it's now being featured as a single frame on top of my thing, on top of my grid. And I can then, so then let's see, I go to not cutaway, but picture in picture. So I click on the clip that I just imported, and I click picture in picture. And now I can move it around. I can put it where I want. And so I'm going to put it here. I'll have it overflow a tiny bit. Or I could just do it at the halfway. This is where, like, all right, you can get a little sloppy. If it's snapping to a grid and you don't like the way it's doing that, you should be able to hold Command to resize it freely. That's a trick you can do in almost any program on Apple. And so I'm going to put it there and see how it looks. And so I'll start over here. So there's a little fade in, but you can see that fade in is represented here, and I can make it so that fade in doesn't last any time, or unless that's what I want, doesn't matter. So those two little dots, clicking and dragging those give the length of the fade in. If I want it to fade in from black, I can use a black background image. All right, great. So that's doing what I want. So now what I want to do is I want to just keep the sound on this, but take the video and save it all as a file. Actually, hold on. Let me explain what I'm planning to do here. One option would be to take this whole thing, export it to its own video, and use that as the base for the next thing. That would have the disadvantage that as I did this, all of the sound would get mixed one piece at a time, and I wouldn't be able to mess with the different parts of the sound later. Now, I'm stuck with that situation for the actual image, but I'm not stuck with that situation for the sound. I can make it so that I'm able to edit the sound the whole time altogether. And just because the only thing that's really limited about iMovie is the image, where I can only have one frame added in. And so what I do is I detach the audio like that. Now the audio is aligned to the video, but I can share and export it to a file. Just John in a corner. I'll call it, my movie is now called John in a Corner. I'm exporting it with video and audio. I'm using faster compression. I think at some point it might degrade the image a little bit to do that. Quality medium, I'm not sure what to advise on that, but your call about all of that. So now I've got John in a corner. I'm exporting it, and what I'm going to do, it'll take a moment to finish doing this. You've got a little counter over here in the corner that's showing progress. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this corner clip and replace this image with my new video. And remove the sound from that video. And so then at that point, I've got the image of John playing in the corner as the base track for the image, for the video that I'm building. And I've got the sound from that out here as a separate soundtrack. And so what's nice about that situation, as I guess I already mentioned, is that I can change the volume of the different audio tracks against each other. I can mix them. I can even reposition them slightly to worry about synchronizing things. Okay, there we go. It's done. John in a corner. So I'll just take this John in a corner file and I can drag it onto, I can say replace from start. And now I have this. And so now that is now the base, and I can add another frame in from somebody else. Now at that point, I need to, if I want to keep this sound synced up with the video, I can't really move this soundtrack around, but I can still change the volume and do things like that. Oh yeah, and then from this video, which I just imported, I'm going to detach the audio and remove it entirely, because now it's just doubling up what I already have. Great. Okay, so I can use the pinch on the pad to zoom in and out. Oh, and here you can see that I actually made a little bit of a mistake, which is I only had that image showing for 36 seconds before, but my movie was 2 minutes long, and so at this point the image disappears. I would need to go back and fix that. I don't need to worry about that right now since I'm not actually going for a final product, but you'd want to be a little bit more careful about that and make sure that you've got the actual whole length of the video.
That's if you want to use that, if you want to actually use that video
Exactly.
in your.
Right. So I would need to undo what I just did in Apple Z. The nice thing about working all in this window is I can actually undo to go back and just, stretch this out and do that again. But I'm not going to bother doing that for a sec. I'm just going to do one more insertion, and then I think you can use induction to go forward from there. So now what I want to do is take Sarah's video, which looks like this. Hold on.
Well, you can always just edit that part out, right? You don't have to like restart the video.
How can you be in two places at once?
All right, so first I'll crop that video up here to start it around the right place. Great. Then I'll go to crop. And again, I want to crop this beforehand because cropping afterwards doesn't work. Or in fact, if you try to crop afterwards, I remember what happens now. It does let you crop, but it doesn't let you change the aspect ratio.
Mm-hmm.
And so you end up with something that needs to be the shape of the final output of the video, which is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll crop it now. I'll press the check mark, and I've got that. I'm going to bring it down into here. And now I can play this. And as you can see, it's off by a bit. So I'm going to zoom in. One helpful thing can be that, I'm going to make myself some space down here to see what's going on. Where's my little arrows? There we go. Why is that only appearing when I go up? Whatever. Okay, so I'm making myself some space. And now you can see the sound file over here.
Yeah.
Here's her downbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And here's my 1, 2, 3 in the year. So those should line up pretty well. And so this will give me a first approximation. I can zoom in even more and like use this little line up to line them up. And now this should be pretty good. Oh, whoops, I lined it up with the wrong spot. This is her downbeat. There. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's the fact that she appears only part of the way through the video, but I can actually just use this to extend the track. What's nice about the iMovie interface is that it leaves it lined up for you when you click and drag on one of the edges. It doesn't change the beginning, it just changes how much of the clip it includes. So that's now temporally lined up to my satisfaction. I'll go back up here and just like I did before, change to picture in picture. And in order to move it around, I need to click on this clip. So now I can put her over here, open it up a little bit. And this time I'm going to have her overflow into the bottom because I'm later going to put another video over that.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't even worry about that. And I can say check. So now it looks like this.
Yes. That's
great.
so cool, John. That is so cool.
It's been really fun figuring this out. And so then I'm going to do the same thing where I detach the audio. The audio remains lined up, and now it's labeled Sarah Fiddle G and John in G.
Yeah.
And so if I want to turn one of them up, I can, I think it's this, hold on. Wait, no, not that. If I double click on it, oh yeah, here it is. I can just click and drag the volume up.
Oh, nice.
There you go. Okay, so that'll mix them. If there's something else fancy you want to do, I'm not sure what kind of audio mixing capacity this thing has, but I would look under modify. Anyways, I haven't explored it fully, but volume's obviously going to be the important one. And so if I want Sarah way down in the mix, I do that, but of course I don't. All right. So doing it all in this order is important because now I don't get to move her around in terms of alignment, because now the video and the audio would be separate.
Yeah.
And so, I get to do the same thing. I then share and export it to a file. I label that file John and plus Sarah.
Yeah.
And then I would find that file again. I would drag, over wherever it is. Why is it only popping up over there? I would find that file again. I would drag it onto this. I would replace from the beginning. And then I would delete this box. And at that point, the whole thing would now have me and Sarah both in it. And the sound would remain down here at the bottom. So the only other, let me see, change the fade in. The only other nastiness that happened was when somebody got slightly desynchronized. And like, apparently, when he was playing the video, it must have like skipped a beat or something, or got slowed down
If he
slightly.
was listening, if it was doing it with YouTube, it might have.
Right, so that might have been the problem. It's possible that it's because he was watching it off of YouTube, that there was a stagger in there somewhere. And so what I did, which worked surprisingly well, but was a terrible hack, was I split the clip. I zoomed in as much as I could. I split it again. And I removed tiny chunks of the clip.
Wow.
And I did that while the sound was attached, so that it remained all connected with itself. And at that point, it was just a matter of trying to use my ear to figure out where exactly he got off. And I would remove a tiny clip and.
But just him.
Just him, exactly. And then I would remove it and then drag the video to close that gap, and it would just skip a couple of milliseconds. And that got him back on. And fortunately, it seemed like there were only a couple of moments where he got off from everyone else. Then I only had to do that for one person. So that's my note of caution in terms of how they're listening to it. So that's why sending an audio track for them to download and listen to might be better than sending a video track for them to watch online. And then that's about it. There was one other trick that I pulled, which was I then put a black box. One moment. Over. I use that same graphics program to create just a black rectangle, imported it, and then use that to cover up the bottom until a certain group of people were entering. And then I'd have them all fade in at the same time by fading the black square off of them. And so, yeah, you can kind of, at that point, it was just like hacking together whatever images I wanted to be on there. And so rather than having them all fade in at the same time, and rather than having a black backdrop, which would have made sense if I wanted it to be a black backdrop, I instead had a black curtain that I put over them, which I then faded to reveal them. And doing everything one step at a time, exporting the result as an image, as a video, and then using that to replace what is in here. It was the whole process.
Wow.
And it's because you can keep the sound that this is not too much of a pain to even bother. But yeah, it got faster as I got used to it.